Discover the incredible words that changed everything for a janitor on a blind date. Tears flowed. James stood in the bustling Midwestern city cloaked in night, the skyscrapers looming like silent giants. As the janitor at the local high school, he spent his hours scrubbing floors and emptying trash bins, all to give back to the one person who had given him everything: his mother. She had spent years toiling away, sacrificing her dreams so that he could chase his. But tonight felt different. Tonight, his sister had set him up on a blind date. The quaint restaurant glowed with flickering candlelight. It smelled of hearty Midwestern dishes. When Lisa walked through the door, her presence lit up the room. A spirited teacher, she radiated warmth. When their eyes met, he felt a spark. As they sat down, laughter intertwined with the clinking of forks and the welcoming murmur of casual conversation, but as they spoke and the conversation turned deeper, James felt the gnawing anxiety creep in. He could feel the divide between their lives, his humble janitorial duties and her aspirations within the world of education. Would she judge him? Would a teacher want a janitor? His heart raced, fingers fidgeting nervously on the table, sweat collecting at the back of his neck. Just as he was about to let fear take hold, James cleared his throat, his voice shaking like autumn leaves in a gust. My mom, she worked so hard for me. Raised me alone. She deserves the world. Tears pricked at his eyes as he spoke of her relentless devotion, those countless hours she spent scrubbing floors in a factory, her body weary but her spirit fierce. He took a breath, feeling raw and exposed. A threadbare wound finally opened in the light. James saw the tears glisten in Lisa's eyes. She was listening, really listening, and it felt like they were peeling back layers of their guarded selves. I understand, she said softly, her voice full of empathy. My family had struggles too. They always seemed to face some kind of battle. Her story echoed the hardships he had faced, their worlds colliding and reshaping before him, but just as their connection began to solidify, laughter erupted from a nearby table. A group of patrons started to mock them, judging James without knowing his heart. Look at that. One jeered, gesturing dramatically. The sound sliced through the warm atmosphere, causing Lisa to flinch. James's chest tightened, a storm brewing inside him. He glanced at Lisa, who shifted uncomfortably, her smile faltering. The weight of scrutiny pulled at his very being. Who was he to pursue this sparking connection? The doubts invaded his mind. Would he lose her to the weight of public opinion? The very expectation of how life was supposed to be nagged at him, yet in the chaos, a flicker of hope ignited within him. He was more than his occupation. He was a son driven by love and sacrifice. Would he step forward bravely or retreat once again? The evening hung in a fragile balance, heavy with unspoken words and unknown futures. How would James redefine his worth in the face of judgment and uncertainty? Only time would tell. James took a deep breath, forcing himself to push past the mockery that hung in the air like a thick fog. He had come too far tonight to let someone else's judgment ruin what felt like a genuine connection. His eyes met Lisa's, searching for a sign of encouragement. She offered a small, brave smile, and with that, a spark reignited in his heart. Let them talk, he said quietly, surprising himself. His voice took on a newfound strength, as though standing up not just for himself, but for the spirit of his mother who had never dared back down. We're here. Together. Lisa nodded, her expression shifting from uncertainty to a fierce determination. Yes. Who cares what they think? They don't know us. They don't know our stories. The warmth between them surged again, and he felt the tension easing. James dared to share more. I never thought I'd be here. I mean, growing up, I watched my mom put in so much work so I could try to be something different. I've scrubbed and cleaned, but the truth is I want more. Her eyes were steady as she listened, and he continued, emboldened. I dreamt of being a teacher too, once. I loved history, wanted to inspire kids like my mom inspired me. But life took me on a different path. The admission hung in the air, both terrifying and liberating. Lisa's smile brightened, and she leaned in closer. That doesn't mean you can't still inspire. You have the heart for it. You've seen things from a different perspective. That gives you a voice, James. For a moment, the noise around them faded. The laughter, the critical whispers, even the clinking of dishes felt distant. It was just the two of them, two souls fighting against the odds. Her words settled over him like a comforting blanket. Do you really believe that? He asked, vulnerability creeping back in like a timid cat. I do, she insisted, her eyes sparkling with sincerity. And if it's ever been true, it's now. Her conviction swelled like a wave, breaking against his emotional barriers. James could feel a shift inside, the urge to back away was replaced by a longing to bridge the gap between them. He was tired of hiding behind the shadows of doubt. Just then, as if to test their resolve, the laughing table erupted in another round of taunting. What's next, a love story of Cinderella and the janitor? Someone jeered, making the others roar with laughter. The mirth cut into him, fueling the old familiar feelings of inadequacy. But this time, he didn't shy away. He turned his back on the crowd, focusing entirely on Lisa. I want to be more than what they see, he declared, his voice steadying. I want to be someone who can uplift others. Lisa's expression softened, and tears brimmed in her eyes again, but this time they seemed joyful. You already are. Something stirred in James, a mix of disbelief and hope, his heart racing in anticipation. In that moment of vulnerability, he sensed the profound impact of their dialogue. It made him realize how love unfiltered by judgment could heal deep-rooted pain, but before he could further express his feelings, the restaurant door swung open, letting in a gust of cold air. The moment was shattered as a familiar face stepped inside. James squinted, and his stomach dropped. What was he doing here? Would this unexpected figure threaten their connection? What secrets would this interruption unveil? James's heart raced once more, knowing that tonight's journey was just beginning. James's heart thudded painfully against his ribcage as he scanned the room. There he was, the one face he never expected, Marcus, his old boss from the janitorial company. A sinking feeling washed over him, feeling like a tide pulling him away from Lisa, from the hope he had just found. Marcus was the last person he wanted to see in a moment so fragile. Is that Lisa began, her gaze following his. The poignant confusion in her eyes mirrored his own mounting dread. Do you know him? Yeah, he whispered, trying to keep his voice steady. He's my former boss. Marcus spotted him and flashed a broad, toothy grin that didn't reach his eyes. James felt the warmth between him and Lisa begin to drip away, diminishing under the weight of the laughter and whispers that erupted again from the table in the corner. Janitor got himself a date. Someone yelled, causing Marcus to break into a loud bark of laughter that echoed through the restaurant. The laughter was contagious, and James felt the weight of their collective judgment crashing down. James squared his shoulders, clenching his fists until his nails dug into his palms. Could he fight through this? Did he really care what they thought? Lisa turned to him, a fierce determination written across her face. Ignore them, James. Don't let them dim your light. The voice of doubt within him stirred, whispering that this was exactly what he feared, that they would see him as he had always been seen. But Lisa's confidence was a lifeline. He caught her eyes and felt her energy surge through him. Rising from her seat, Lisa pointed directly at Marcus. Excuse me. You don't know him. You don't know us. The sudden shift turned heads, silence fell briefly, and James was stunned. She was fierce, more than he had anticipated. Ignoring the glare of judgment that threatened to surface, James's heartbeat echoed in his ears, a steady rhythm building courage inside him. This was not who he was not anymore. Listen, Marcus said, with a faux serious tone, it's good to see you're getting out, James. But let us be real here. Do you really think she's into you? A janitor on a date? The word stung, but James, emboldened by Lisa's defiance, took a step forward. You know what, Marcus? Yes, I'm a janitor. But that doesn't define me. I have dreams, I have goals, and I'm not afraid to pursue them. Especially with people who see me for who I am. With each word, he felt his confidence blossom. The laughter subsided, and for a brief moment, he could see the shock on some of the faces surrounding them. Lisa reached out, placing her hand on his arm, a gentle reminder of their connection. "You're inspiring, James," she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper yet powerful in its intimacy. "And that matters far more than what they think." Marcus opened his mouth to retort, but the words failed him. The crowd had lost interest, some even shifting to avoid eye contact with the escalating tension. James felt relief wash over him. He had stood his ground. He had declared his worth. But as he turned back to Lisa, a flicker of concern crossed her eyes. She understood the complexity of the situation. "Are you okay?" she asked, her voice lowering. "I am now," he replied, letting out a breath he didn't know he was holding, and yet, lingering in the air, unexpected emotions swirled around them as Marcus's gaze shifted from cruel to something unreadable. The silence stretched thin but laden with potential. Was there regret behind that look or merely a simmering anger? James took a step closer to Lisa, ready to face whatever came next. "Let us not let this ruin our night," he said, drawing strength from her presence. "Absolutely," she grinned, her eyes vibrant with hope. But just as they began to settle back into that magical connection, Marcus stepped forward again, a new resolve in his gaze. "One last thing," he said, the challenge in his tone slicing through the air. "You think this is over? You have no idea what's waiting for you." James braced himself. What did that mean? He could feel the weight of new possibilities looming over them. And he knew this was only the beginning of a much deeper journey. The moment lingered in the air, heavy with promise and uncertainty. The words hung like a storm cloud, darkening the light they had momentarily reclaimed. James felt a chill creep up his spine as he glanced back at Marcus, who wore a knowing smirk. James's grip tightened on the edge of the table, his breath shallow. "What do you mean?" he finally asked, his voice tense. Marcus leaned in slightly, eyes sparkling with mischief. "You really think you know what life has in store for you? It's never that simple, James. You've got a lot more to lose than you think." Lisa squeezed James's arm, trying to anchor him amidst the brewing storm. "Don't listen to him," she said firmly. "He's trying to get into your head, and it won't work." "Is that what you really believe?" Marcus shot back, his laughter momentarily snuffed out. "You're dating a janitor. You think you're special? You think this thing you have is some fairy tale? The world is colder than that." Inside, James felt the walls of his resolve start to crack under the pressure. Would this night end with them laughing over dessert, or would it devolve into something darker? He cast a sideways glance at Lisa, who stood her ground, defiance blazing in her eyes. "Marcus, you're a fool," he said, feeling the anger rise. "You don't get it. I'm trying to be better. To be more than what you called me. There's nothing wrong with being a janitor, but that's just the start of my story. I'm building something new, something real." The room felt electric then, as if everyone momentarily held their breath. James could feel the eyes of the patrons mingling with the tension, but none had the courage to speak up. Maybe they were afraid of Marcus. Maybe they were afraid of the truth. Lisa grinned, her enthusiasm contagious, breaking through even the thickest tension. "Exactly. And it's not what you were, it's who you're becoming. You're not defined by your job or your past." As if in response, Marcus shifted his stance, feet planted, yet something remote flickered behind his eyes. Was it disdain or was it an unexpected recognition of James's strength? "Sounds like a motivational poster," Marcus sneered, but there was a wavering in his tone, like he was questioning himself even as he mocked them. "Better than a glorified janitor, Marcus," James countered, finding strength in Lisa's presence. "At least I'm trying to uplift others instead of tearing them down." He could feel the energy shift again, something between them had fundamentally changed. The laughter from the table simmered down, a few side glances were exchanged. Marcus stood in silence, transforming from the predator to something almost vulnerable, and suddenly, James saw a glimmer of confusion behind that bravado. "Do you really think it's easier for you?" Marcus finally said, lowering his voice, conceding a shade of sincerity. "The world is built against you, kid. Most people don't have the luxury of pretending they can change." "I'm not pretending," James shot back, his own conviction roaring louder than before. "I have a vision for my life. I'm not waiting for anyone to give it to me." Marcus blinked, and for a moment, the mask slipped, revealing a man who once held power and had his world crumble. Perhaps beneath that irony-soaked exterior, he recognized something in James that had once flickered inside of him, and with that realization, a thought dawned on James: this wasn't just a confrontation, it was an awakening for both of them. Could it be that Marcus was fighting his own battles, caught in a web of self-doubt, just like he had been? James took a deep breath, glancing at Lisa, who nodded encouragingly. "We all have a choice, Marcus. You can choose to be the shadow or you can step into the light." Silence enveloped them again, pregnant with possibilities, illusions shattering around the table. James felt the tide change again, not just for him but perhaps for everyone in the restaurant, yet, deep down, James wondered if he truly had the power to change everything around him, or if Marcus held a card up his sleeve, something that would wipe this moment clean. "What is it going to be, Marcus?" he asked, heart pounding, ready for anything, and then came Marcus's response: a small nod and a half-smile that turned both hope and dread into a delicate dance. As they basked in that fleeting moment, one question echoed in James's mind: what was Marcus about to unleash next? The half-smile lingered on Marcus's face, a flicker of something profound glimmering in the dim light of the restaurant. James's heart raced, the air around them electric with unspoken words, and his mind whirled through the possibilities of what might come next. "Okay," Marcus said, his voice steadying, as if he had made a choice, "let's keep it real." James felt Lisa's hand squeeze his arm tighter, urging him to stand firm. He could see the shift in Marcus, like a man wrestling with the ghosts of his past. James focused on that, not the fiery arrogance that usually radiated from him. "Do you think it's just your job that defines you?" Marcus asked, his eyes narrowing slightly. "Try being a janitor in a world that only cares about surface appearances. People look through you. You are invisible." James felt a lump in his throat. He had battled with that feeling. The times he wore his uniform, cleaning up someone else's mess, facing scoffs and judgment. But right now, he wasn't just a janitor. He was more. He was determined to change the narrative. "But I'm here, Marcus," he replied, conviction flooding his voice. "I'm not invisible to myself. I'm building something, piece by piece. I'm proud of what I do." In that moment, he felt a swell of support from the surrounding table, even the onlookers. They were caught up in this unexpected showdown, leaning in as if to catch every detail. It was surreal. "Is that what this is all about?" Marcus scoffed lightly, holding on to the remnants of his bravado. "You don't think pride can get you hurt? You keep building. But what happens when it all comes crashing down?" James swallowed hard. Marcus's words hit like rocks, but he refused to fall. Instead, he tilted his chin up, matching the intensity in Marcus's gaze. "It's worth the risk. At least I'm trying to reach for something." He paused, searching for the right words. "You just want to keep people afraid. What good does that do?" And there it was, a ripple of vulnerability crept onto Marcus's face. For the first time, he looked unsure, unfurling behind the layers he often hid beneath. The tension began to dissolve, but there was still an unsteady current between them. "Maybe you're right," Marcus said, almost reluctantly. "But what do you know about pain? Real pain? Loss? Regret?" James felt all eyes on him, and the gravity of the question settled deep in his chest. His mind flashed back to his own regrets, the loss of friends along the way, the fear of being stuck in a cycle of despair, of never going anywhere. Each moment shaped who he was, like the cracks in the sidewalk he swept. They told stories. "I know enough," he finally said, his voice steady and resolute. "But I refuse to let that define me. We all have our shadows, Marcus. We carry them. But we can also choose to step into the light." The silence was thick now, the weight of the moment heavy with possibility. Marcus stared at him, his confidence rattled, as if he were looking into a reflection he didn't quite recognize. Suddenly, the clattering of cutlery broke their reverie. A couple at the next table exchanged nervous glances, uncertain how to react to the standoff unfolding before them. A woman whispered to her partner, her eyes darting between Marcus and James. "Somebody should say something," she muttered, and as if in response, Lisa stood up, drawing attention away from the tense atmosphere. "Can we please have some dessert? It might just be the piece we need to break this moment," she said, her voice light yet determined. James didn't know whether to laugh or be concerned. The tension cracked, and a small chuckle rippled through the restaurant as people began to find relief in her jest. "Good idea, Lisa." Someone from the corner table shouted, prompting others to join in with laughter. James felt a wave of warmth wash over him, but he couldn't shake the unanswered question that hung in the air. As Marcus offered a reluctant but genuine grin, he saw it a flicker of understanding, of what it might mean to emerge from the shadows. But would it last? With the fragile bridge built between them? Would Marcus take a step forward, or retreat to the familiar comfort of his darkness? James felt a tug of apprehension knot his stomach. Not everything was resolved, not yet. But as dessert arrived, an unexpected breaking of bread between a janitor and a former king of the social ladder, he couldn't help but wonder, would their shared moment ignite a deeper transformation, or would the shadows reclaim what they had just begun to build? The dessert arrived, a colorful array of cakes and pastries, each one a sweet distraction from the raw emotions lingering in the air. James watched as Lisa eagerly passed around plates, her laughter ringing like a bell, cutting through the heaviness that had settled in. "Wow, this looks amazing!" she exclaimed, her eyes lighting up. "We should celebrate this moment, right? It's the perfect excuse." The atmosphere shifted again. Laughter trickled in, sweeter than any of the treats laid before them. It was a welcome relief, and yet, James felt the weight of Marcus's earlier words lingering in the corners of his mind. As the plates filled and dessert was enjoyed, he couldn't help but glance at Marcus, whose expression had softened. The tension that once defined their exchange appeared to have melted, replaced by something more akin to curiosity. "You know," Marcus finally said, picking up a fork and eyeing a chocolate mousse, "I used to think a lot about what it meant to be someone. I thought it was about status, about glitz. But maybe it's about something deeper." James leaned in, the iron walls built up around Marcus starting to show cracks. "What do you mean?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Lately, I've felt my life splintering in ways I never thought possible. I thought I was invincible," Marcus responded. He scooped a small bite of mousse, savoring the rich flavor. "But, you know what? It's okay to feel lost sometimes. It means you're human." A wave of surprise washed over James. Was this truly the same Marcus who had put him down just hours ago? Lisa interrupted, her eyes sparkling. "Well, it's never too late to redefine yourself, right? Chocolate mousse can't change the past, but it can certainly make the present taste better." Laughter bubbled up again, the lightheartedness dancing through the restaurant like a warmth that wrapped around them. But beneath Lisa's jest, an unspoken agreement grew strong between Marcus and James. The conversation flowed naturally after that. They exchanged stories, memories of failures and small victories, dreams lost and found. "Did you ever think about how people define success?" James asked, his curiosity piqued by their shared confessions. "Do you think it's money? Fame?" "No," Marcus replied slowly, his eyes thoughtful. "I think it's resilience. The ability to keep going despite everything. Like you, James. You wake up every day ready to face the world, ready to become more than what is expected." That's success. James felt his heart swell. Confidence surged. And you? You're more than just the facade. You're starting to see it, Marcus. A silence enveloped them, not an uncomfortable one, but one filled with understanding. It was different, a new chapter for both men, their paths finally intertwined in a way James hadn't anticipated, but then, suddenly, a familiar voice echoed through the restaurant, jolting him back to reality. Marcus, you've got to be kidding. Hanging out with a janitor? It was Sarah, Marcus's old friend with a reputation for her sharp tongue and piercing remarks. She stood at the entrance, hands on her hips, disbelief written all over her face. Guess the whispers were right, she sneered, glancing at James with disdain. What's he doing here? James's heart pounded. He could feel the old fears creeping back, the familiar sensation of worthlessness threatening to shatter the night they had begun to build. Marcus's expression shifted, uncertainty flashing across his face. Would he stand up for the connection they had forged, or would he fall back into the safety of his past? In that moment, the room seemed to hold its breath, the laughter fading, leaving behind a tension that felt heavier than before. As Marcus glanced between Sarah and James, the air crackled. Would he defend their new bond, or would the shadows claim him once more? James felt time slow. The laughter around him dissolved like sugar in water, leaving behind an unsettling silence. He searched Marcus's eyes, hoping to see a glimmer of the alliance they had just formed, but the flicker of uncertainty drowned it out. Sarah sauntered closer, her confidence radiating off her in cold waves. Seriously, Marcus. What's next? Are you going to embrace being what? A janitor's best friend? Her tone dripped with condescension, like a sharp knife slashing through the fragile threads of their newfound connection. James's heart sank. He remembered the years spent hiding who he was, the shame that had become his shadow. He had finally opened up to someone who, against all odds, had begun to see him as more than his job. Was it all about to crash and burn just like that? Marcus took a deep breath, running a hand through his hair, his jaw tightening visibly. Sarah, he said, his voice firm yet shaky, this is James. And for the record, his job doesn't define him. Just like mine doesn't define me. The words hung in the air like a lifeboat in a stormy sea. James felt a rush of warmth at Marcus's defense, a flicker of hope igniting again despite the storm brewing between them. Oh please. Spare me the lecture. I'm just saying what everyone else thinks, Sarah shot back, crossing her arms defiantly. The eyes around the restaurant began to drift toward the trio, drawn like moths to the flickering light of conflict. James could feel the heat of their stares, the whispers starting in hushed tones, echoing the lies that danced in his mind. Because that's all I need right now, your opinion, Marcus continued, his voice rising with a conviction that surprised James. Maybe I don't have it all figured out. Maybe I'm still trying to learn what success really means. But I know that standing by someone because they're in a different position in life. That's real strength. You wouldn't understand. James's heart raced harder, no longer from fear but from a newfound admiration for Marcus. He had hoped for this, prayed for it silently, and now was witnessing it unfold in raw form. Could they really turn their backs on the past? Wow, so inspirational, Sarah scoffed, her eyes rolling. You really think this is going to last? Face it, sweetheart. You're on a path to nowhere with him. The finality of her words struck James like a punch. Memories of doubt flooded back every cold shoulder, every sideways glance, the fear of never being good enough. Would Marcus stand firm, or would he retreat into the familiar, the easy out? Do you really believe that? Marcus challenged, not backing down, his face gravely serious. That we're nothing but our jobs? No. That's not how I operate, and neither should you. James felt the world shift slightly. The tension seemed less overwhelming, almost like a challenge instead of a loss. As Sarah opened her mouth to retort, Lisa stepped in, her voice bright and warm. Hey, how about we all take a deep breath? We're here to enjoy a good time, right? She smiled at everyone, her laughter chiming like a gentle bell, offering a glimpse of hope amidst the tension, but before the storm could pass, Sarah shot one last look at James, her voice icy. "Let us see how long this charade lasts, Marcus. You're better off without him." With that, she turned, leaving a cold silence behind her, one filled with the weight of doubt and unresolved tension. James felt violated, exposed, the old fears creeping back up like vines threatening to choke him. But Marcus remained beside him, a steadying presence. The question lingered in the air: were they ready to battle against the expectations of the past together, or would they tumble over into the abyss from which Sarah's words had tried to cast them? As the tension hung like a faint shadow, James caught Marcus's eye. Would the pull between them be strong enough to withstand the storm? James glanced around the restaurant, feeling the weight of onlookers' stares, their curiosity like a storm pressing in from every side. He could hear their muted whispers, doubts swirling around him like smoke. But behind that haze, Marcus stood firm, unbroken and unfazed. James's heart danced between anxiety and a sweet kind of gratitude. "Let's go outside," Marcus said, breaking the spell of silence. There was an urgency in his voice, a clarion call meant for James alone. He didn't wait for a response, gently taking James's arm and leading him toward the door, through the maelstrom of judgmental gazes. Once outside, the cool air hit James's face like a splash of water. He inhaled deeply, trying to ground himself, the noise of the restaurant fading behind them. Marcus's presence felt electric, charged with something undefined. "Honestly, I'm sorry about that," Marcus said, his voice a soft murmur, almost drowned out by the distant sounds of the city. "Sarah, she doesn't see the real you, James. And I want her to. I want everyone to see you." James's chest tightened, warmth flourished on his cheeks. "But does it even matter what she thinks?" he asked, doubt creeping in again like unwelcome fog. "It's hard not to let those words sink in." Marcus stepped closer, so close that James could see every flicker of emotion in his eyes. "It matters to you. So it matters to me. But you're stronger than that. Take it from a guy who is not sure if his dreams are realistic." A tremor in his voice caught James off guard. "You think your dreams aren't realistic?" It was strange to hear Marcus, who seemed so put together, express that kind of vulnerability. "I think sometimes I feel like I'm chasing a shadow," Marcus admitted, his gaze shifting toward the streetlights. "Like I'm on a treadmill, running but not getting anywhere. But then I see you. And suddenly everything shifts. You make me want to try harder. To figure out my own road." James's heart swelled, the weight of insecurity momentarily lifting. Maybe it wasn't just about him. Maybe together, they could face what lay ahead. That he took a breath, feeling the wind scatter his fears. "I get that. I feel like I'm constantly battling the shadows, too, like I'm not enough. But with you it feels different. It feels like we could push through." In that moment, they were united, standing at the precipice of something far bigger than both of them. It wasn't merely about their jobs, or the snide remarks from others. It was a shared journey, a promise to support each other against the tide of uncertainty. "When did it become this hard?" James asked, half a smile breaking through the heaviness. "This is life. Messy, unpredictable. But it's also beautiful, especially with someone who understands your truth," Marcus replied, a glint of determination sparking in his eyes. Just then, laughter erupted from a nearby table, the familiar voices of their friends filtering through the quiet night. It jolted James back, the warmth between him and Marcus still hanging in the air like a delicate thread. Suddenly, uncertainty flickered back into his thoughts. What if we're not strong enough? What if Sarah's right? Marcus shook his head firmly. We don't have to be strong all the time. We just have to be brave together. James felt a smile creeping onto his face. There was something in those words, a promise, a strength. But then, as they turned to step back inside, a shadow passed through Marcus's expression, one that James didn't catch. A voice, unfamiliar and piercing, broke through their moment. Are you two an item now? Cute, but good luck with that. James's stomach dropped. The familiar voice belonged to Danny, a longtime rival who reveled in breaking down anyone who dared to stray from conformity. Marcus's jaw clenched, and James felt the resolve building between them. Last time someone poked fun at him, he shrunk away. Would this time be different? James glanced sideways at Marcus, heart racing with anticipation and fear. What would happen next? Would they face Danny together, or would fear drown their connection in uncertainty? His heart mixed with a strange brew of hope and hesitation. They were just beginning to unravel this journey, and it was clear things were only going to get more complicated. It was time to take a stand. Marcus took a deep breath, his eyes steady on Danny. There was a strength there, a flicker of defiance that promised to shield James. James felt that flicker, too, igniting a fire deep within him. This wasn't just about him anymore, they were in this together. Why does it matter to you? Marcus replied, his voice calm but firm. You can't be serious about caring what we do. There was a twinkle of challenge in his tone, but James heard the underlying tension, as if Marcus felt the weight of the moment pressing down on them both. Danny's smirk faltered for a second, a quick crack in his usual confidence. Oh, don't get all up in arms, Marcus. Just making an observation, he said, but the edge in his words lingered. He loved to play devil's advocate, turning jokes into sharp daggers. James shifted, heart thumping. Why do you have to say things like that, Danny? He asked, surprising even himself with the steadiness of his voice. You don't know anything about us. Oh, I know enough, Danny shot back, his arrogance wanting to drown out the doubt lurking in his own mind. You're both just playing house. It's cute, really. But how long do you think it will last? The laughter from the nearby table turned into hushed whispers as they sensed the tensions rising. The atmosphere was electric, charged with a mixture of support and judgment. James stole a glance back at Marcus. He's wrong. We're more than just a phase. James felt the words bubble up from somewhere deep, pushed by an urgency. The truth crashed in like waves, unexpected and refreshingly cleansing. And in that moment, Marcus took James's hand, grounding him. Exactly. We're finding our way, and we don't need your approval. James felt a surge of confidence and drew courage from Marcus's grip. They were standing together against the tide of Danny's ridicule, and their bond felt stronger than anything intended to tear them apart. Danny's smirk faded into a scowl, sensing the shift. But rather than backing down, he leaned in closer, as if trying to penetrate their newfound strength. So, you're serious about this whole thing? You really think you can make it work? A moment of silence followed, heavy with both hope and fear. Then James surprised himself again. We will. We're all just trying to figure it out, aren't we? At least we're brave enough to try. Without breaking eye contact, Marcus stepped further into the confrontation. Do you have any idea how easy it is to sit back and judge others? It's far more difficult to stand up and say I'm here, I'm real. There was something electric about witnessing Marcus confront his rival, and as the words hung between them, James felt not just a rush of solidarity, but also clarity. Maybe it wasn't about having all the answers right now, it was about knowing they would search for them together. Danny scoffed, a desperate attempt to regain control. Good luck with that. You'll need it. With a sharp intake of breath, James realized that Danny was just a voice in the noise, that the real road ahead was theirs to traverse, fueled by shared laughter, risk, and love. As James and Marcus turned away from Danny, James felt lighter, each footstep parting the clouds of doubt hanging over him. Together? Marcus whispered, their hands still interlocked. Always, James replied, his heart swelling, excitement flickering along his veins. But as they stepped back inside the restaurant, feeling the warmth of their friends waiting, a thought crept in. They hadn't resolved anything with Danny, and even more unanswered questions lingered in the air. What would be next? Was the support of their friends enough to combat the looming specter of disapproval they knew would keep surfacing? James's gaze wandered, searching for Marcus's eyes, the confusion mingling with hope. Could they truly brave the storms ahead, together? The journey realized an unexpected twist, growing heavier with each step they took. Just as he contemplated their future, a sudden message pinged on his phone, a name he hadn't seen in a while, someone from his past. "I need to tell you something." His heart dropped at the potential that whatever came next could change everything again. James sat in the comforting glow of the restaurant, his heart racing. The pressure of the outside world still lingered, whispers, laughter, doubts, but here, with Marcus by his side, he felt a burgeoning sense of hope. Their puckish friends were already gathered around a table, returning to their playful banter, but the moment with Danny had forged a heavier connection between Marcus and himself. They had stood up together, facing ridicule head-on, and that bond meant everything. As dessert plates emptied and laughter erupted once more, Marcus placed his hand on the table, closer to James's. "You know," he leaned in, his expression serious but warm, "this is just the beginning." James searched Marcus's eyes, the sincerity resonating with a truth he needed to believe. "I've always been scared," he admitted, his voice barely a whisper amid the soft clinking of forks. "Scared of being seen, scared of being judged." Marcus nodded, his gaze unwavering. "I get that. But every moment we face those fears, it makes us stronger, doesn't it?" "Yeah, it does," James agreed, feeling lighter with every passing second. With laughter bubbling around them, he leaned into the unfolding magic of the night. "But they might always come back, you know. Those whispers, those thoughts. Let them come," Marcus declared confidently. "We'll face them together. Like we did tonight. That's what makes a real connection, dealing with everything that tries to separate us." Just then, the restaurant door swung open again, and their server strolled in with fresh dessert plates. Another round, on the house. Cheers erupted from their friends, and for a moment, the weight of the outside world melted away. James felt the warmth of the community wrap around him like a cozy blanket. It felt like family. As they shared slices of rich chocolate cake, James's phone buzzed again, this time vibrating insistently in his pocket. With hesitant curiosity, he pulled it out. His heart dropped at a name he hadn't thought about in ages. Will, his childhood best friend who had moved away. The text glowed on the screen, "I need to tell you something, can we talk?" "Who is that?" Marcus asked, noticing James's shift in focus. "Just someone from my past," James replied, his voice steady, but inwardly, he felt his heart clench. "Good or bad?" James thought for a moment, remembering their shared laughter as kids, the comfort of friendship. "I think good, but it still feels complicated. We hadn't spoken in a long time." "Whatever it is, you got this," Marcus reassured him with another gentle squeeze of his hand. The metal threads of reassurance pulled tighter, the evening wound on, filled with joy, teasing, and the sweet taste of cake. James realized, amidst the laughter and camaraderie, that life's complexities often didn't have to overshadow moments of light. As his friends began to rise, ready to embrace the coming chill of the evening, James turned back to Marcus. "Are we really going to make this work? All the comments, the doubts, everything?" Marcus stepped forward, the warmth of clarity in his eyes. "Yes. We'll navigate it all together. It's not about the words that come from others, but the strength we build between us," he said, his voice unwavering. James let out a breath he didn't realize he had been holding. "All right then, let us embrace whatever comes next, together," he said, determination swelling in his chest. As they exited the restaurant, laughter dancing in the night air, James felt the freezing breeze wrap around them. But he didn't shiver. He felt alive, filled with purpose, ready to brave whatever storms might be waiting ahead. The moment they stepped outside, illuminated by streetlights, James glanced at Marcus. "I can't wait to see you again." "Every moment will be worthwhile," Marcus replied, their fingers lacing together as they took their first step into the night, and in that simple gesture of connection, James realized that love and the courage to embrace it was worth fighting for. "Let us build this dream," James whispered, heart full of promise as they walked into the unfolding adventure that awaited. As they strolled down the sidewalk, the city pulsing with life around them, James felt a radiant smile stretch across his face, a joyful tear escaping without shame. He was more than a janitor. He was more than just a son. He was ready to be a man defining his own path. Every struggle, every fear melted under the warmth of love and unity. The world would keep spinning, but together, they crafted a home in each other's hearts, a sanctuary against the chaos outside. And with that realization, he knew, this was just the beginning. Now, dear viewers, if this story touched your heart, you need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support for more incredible journeys that inspire and uplift. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help others find this message of love and strength. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this uplifting ending. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Together, we can uplift every heart.